Coming back here brings it all back. The horrors, the weight of silence, the smell of wood that is no longer sacred. Can you feel it? Every footstep echoes as if the church itself wants to speak, as if the walls scream what they tried to hide. But they don't scream. They whisper. St. Patrick's, Glasgow. A house of worship, and also the hiding place of something no one should ever have seen. What was down there? The answer isn't just macabre. It's a gash in the soul. Because this isn't just a body. It's a betrayed trust, a corrupted faith, a life stolen in silence. This is where the story begins, and also where it should never have been. Peter Tobin. The name may mean nothing to you now, but it should. Because men like him aren't just monsters from old newspapers. They're shadows walking among us. Ordinary people disguised as neighbors, workers, even churchgoers. Tobin was the church's handyman. The man who fixed doors, moved pews, did whatever needed doing. Someone you wouldn't notice. Someone you might trust. And that's where the terror lies. Not in the violence itself, but in the way it infiltrated, smiling, patient, until it was too late. Angelica Kluck believed in that smile. A young Polish woman, full of life, studious, with dreams of the future. She came here to that very place to help, to serve, to donate what she had most precious, time. But in that basement, beneath those worn planks, her destiny was forever broken. Have you ever trusted someone, only to discover they were the worst person possible? Have you ever wondered how someone could hide so much evil behind such banal gestures? That's what makes Tobin so disturbing. He didn't just kill. He deceived, manipulated, seduced. He turned kindness into a trap. And that's why this video exists. Because this story isn't just about Peter Tobin. It's about all of us. About the vulnerability we carry. About how evil can lurk in the places we feel safest. Our home, our neighborhood, our church. This is the kind of pain that connects. Because deep down we all fear being deceived like this. We all know what it's like to trust. And we all know what it's like to lose. But there's another side too. The truth couldn't be buried forever. The investigation uncovered not only Angelica's body, but also the darkest secrets of Tobin's life. Secrets that turned this case into a labyrinth of horrors, revealing much more than anyone could have imagined. And that's where the promise comes in. In this video we'll descend together into the shadows of this case. We'll revisit the church's corridors, hear the voices of those who faced evil firsthand, and discover why Peter Tobin wasn't just a murderer, but a predator who left scars that will never heal. What was hidden beneath the church wasn't just a crime. It was a mirror. A cruel reminder of how far darkness can go when no one is looking. And if you think you've got it, just wait. Because each layer we reveal will pull you in even deeper. And maybe that's why you're here now. Because deep down, you too feel that weight, that emptiness that only stories like this can touch. You want to understand what lurks in the shadows. You want to gaze into the abyss, and still come back whole. But there is something I need to ask you. Subscribe to the channel. It's not just a button, it's not just a number. It's what allows me to continue bringing you these truths no one else dares to tell. It's what keeps this voice reaching your ears, night after night, story after story. Because I know, you're not here by chance. You feel the same restlessness I do. The same hunger for answers that never come complete. And I promise you, each video here will take you deeper. It will show you secrets that were buried, and that shouldn't have been found. When you subscribe, you're not just supporting this work. You're ensuring that the next story reaches you too. That the next hidden truth isn't forgotten. And I know, you want more. Because this story isn't over yet. What we discovered beneath the church was just the beginning. The worst is yet to come. Returning to this place is like opening a half-open door in the back of your mind. You see the beam of cold light pierce through the dust suspended in the air, but you cannot see what is actually hidden behind it. It's just silence. And in that silence, the echo of something that should never have happened. You feel like there's a red line marked there, invisible but impossible to ignore. It's as if the church wall itself has absorbed a secret, and continues to bleed even after so many years. It's not just about bodies. It's about mindset, about decisions made in the dark, about a transformation that drags someone into the abyss until there's nothing left but a shadow. Peter Tobin. The name that seemed too common to carry something so dirty. A man who hid behind the mask of a church worker, with calloused hands, a simple smile, and the false authority of someone who seemed harmless. But you know, those who seem most ordinary are often the ones who keep the truth hidden. And when the police opened the earth beneath that sacred ground, they said they had never seen anything so evil. The scene was not just about death. It was a pure psychological impact, A revelation that transformed the way they looked at life, at faith, at the backstage of humanity itself. The feeling was one of desecration. A place of peace transformed into a secret cemetery. But make no mistake, the horror was not just in the buried bones. It was that Tobin walked there every day, breathing the same air, greeting people, pretending to be one of them. The monster never wears the face you expect. He puts on a skin of normality, builds a routine until the mask cracks. And when it cracks, it's too late. You empathize with the victims, of course. But what really bothers you is realizing that Tobin could be your neighbor, your coworker, even someone who once smiled at you without you realizing what was behind it. That's the psychological voyeurism that gets you hooked. It's not just about him. It's about you. About how the line between safety and danger is more fragile than you'd like to believe. Every detail revealed is a wound. The hole opened in the church floor didn't just expose bones. It exposed layers of guilt, regret, and silence. What's crueler? The crime itself or a lifetime hidden beneath such a banal facade? This is where the viewer's pain arises. In the uncertainty, in the unresolved mystery, in the confrontation with one's own mortality. You wonder, who was Tobin before? A boy? A broken man? Or someone who's always carried that red streak inside, just waiting for the right moment to reveal itself? What if evil is not something that arises from outside, but a flame that burns silently, hidden behind ordinary eyes? That's the question that remains, the poison that won't leave your mind. And when the police declared that what they found under the church was just the beginning, the weight of silence became unbearable. Because Tobin's evil wasn't limited to what everyone thought. It spread in layers like a shadow that respects no walls or fences. And what you're about to discover is that this desecrated ground wasn't the limit. It was just the first sign that there was much more buried in the darkness. Want me to pick up right where I left off, revealing in layers how police linked Tobin to other victims and delving into his mind seconds before his execution? The air inside the church still carried the same weight you'd felt before, but now every step seems to pulse in tune with the story hidden in the ground beneath your feet. You feel the tension growing without knowing exactly where it comes from. There's a door ajar in your thoughts, a cold light that illuminates only parts of the truth, leaving larger shadows to be explored. And it's there, in that gap between what you see and what you sense, that Angelica Cluck appears. She wasn't just another name on a police record. It was a vibrant, colorful life, about to be snuffed out. A young, intelligent, smiling Polish student with plans you'll never fully understand because someone decided to interrupt them. She helped at church, giving her time and energy, expecting nothing in return, as you may have done at some point in your own life. It's in this connection that you feel empathy take root. You could be her or someone you love. Angelica trusted. Her trust was the door Tobin used to enter. And you realize that vulnerability, kindness, can be fascinating and dangerous. There's no justice in violence, but there are lessons hidden in decisions, in unnoticed intentions, in risks that seemed minimal until it was too late. Her every gesture was normal, every smile seemed ordinary, but Tobin didn't see normality, he saw opportunity. Can you feel the psychological impact of this encounter? Not just the immediate fear, but the silent transformation of those who are manipulated without realizing it. The predator moves behind the scenes almost imperceptibly. He observes, listens, calculates. He understands the human mind, every weakness, every hope. And you wonder, to what extent can someone be so cold, so strategic, so profoundly disconnected from any empathy? Tobin wasn't just cruel. He was systematic. The cold light streaming through the window that day could easily have been a reflection of his mind. Clear, but without warmth, without remorse. You feel it? You feel the red line hovering over Angelica even before any physical act. Every second she spent there was a dance with death, a game you, the viewer, perceive with a painful unease, but safe because you're not inside that silent cell, not watching the monster smile at her. And yet, there are moments when you almost get confused. False clues emerge in the narrative, small decisions, subtle gestures from Tobin that might seem harmless to anyone else. But you sense a hidden truth brewing. Every word, every action, every shadow in the corner of the room carries revelations that only become complete when we look more closely, when we connect the victim's pain to the predator's mindset. Angelica, with her natural confidence and her simple human choices, becomes the lens through which you observe Tobin. And it's through this lens that everything intensifies. The tension doesn't come from the violence itself, but from the awareness that someone could be breathing the same air, smiling while plotting something unimaginable. Psychological voyeurism sets in. You're inside the story without needing to leave your home. You feel every doubt, every regret, every step that could have changed everything. You begin to realize that, behind his ordinary working-class facade, Tobin was a manipulative machine. A man capable of maintaining a normal routine while concealing horrors that defy comprehension. He calculated, anticipated, planned. And at the same time you wonder, what if his normalcy was just another deception, a way to prove that no one could ever imagine the extent of his evil? Angelica trusted him. And it was in that moment, in that trust, that his fate was sealed. But what you don't yet know, and what you'll begin to discover as we progress, is that Tobin's evil wasn't confined to what everyone saw or what the authorities imagined. It spread in layers, invisible, almost imperceptible, leaving trails of destruction that we're only just beginning to understand. As you follow, you feel every step, every choice, every emotion. It's impossible not to reflect on your own decisions, on who you would allow into your life, on what remains hidden beneath the surface. And that's where the suspense becomes visceral, because each fragment of the story carries a psychological weight that doesn't easily dissolve. Each shadow suggests something deeper to come, something Tobin spent years perfecting, something that still echoes in those worn boards and the silent walls of the church. And you sense, even without realizing it, that this story isn't just about Angelica or Tobin or the church. It's about the impact that calculated evil can have on minds, on lives, on the very way you perceive the world around you. The door remains ajar, the cold light permeates the space, and you linger there, breathing in every detail, ready to delve deeper, knowing that the hidden truth still has layers to reveal. You feel the wood beneath your feet creaking differently now. It's not just time that has left its mark, it's the weight of stories that have remained hidden, breathing between the boards and pews. St. Patrick's Church, which for decades was a refuge, a space of prayer, a place where faith intertwined with smiles and promises of hope, seems to sigh with an ancient weariness. You can hear this sigh if you listen closely enough, as if the building itself were aware of what happened within its walls. The light streaming through the tinted windows permeates the space in a cold, almost clinical way. It reveals parts of the floor, details of cracks and dust, but leaves deep shadows that suggest much more is hidden. Each ray of sunlight is a clue, each shadow a doubt. You realize that this place, which seemed safe and sacred, conceals a hidden truth, something that transforms your perception of vulnerability and trust. And there, amid the ancient smell of wood and the distant echo of footsteps that will never return, you feel the psychological impact of what is to come. Consider the background to this silence. Tobin, the man behind the mask of an ordinary church worker, moved as if nothing could reveal his intentions. He wasn't an ordinary visitor, not just a volunteer or someone helping with minor repairs. His every decision, every seemingly banal gesture, carried a calculated mindset, a deep understanding of how to manipulate human trust. And you realize, almost without meaning to, that the horror manifests itself not only in physical actions, but in planning, in the ability to transform places of refuge into stages of fear and pain. And as you watch, you wonder, how can someone exist so coldly? How can someone mask evil so effortlessly that even the most observant can be fooled? It's at this point that the psychological voyeurism intensifies. You feel curiosity and repulsion at the same time, an uncomfortable mix of fascination with the forbidden and fear for what might be hidden beneath the surface of normality. Each step you take into the church nave feels like a silent invitation to notice the red line, the half-open door Tobin inadvertently left. The floor of St. Patrick's isn't just wood. It's a witness. It carries the hidden truth of moments that defy any moral understanding. Angelica, with her whole life ahead of her, trusted that space and the people who seemed safe. But you sense that this trust, this sense of normalcy, was precisely what allowed the transformation to occur. You begin to understand that evil doesn't need shouting to exist. Sometimes it insinuates itself, hiding behind smiles, trivial decisions, movements that seem innocent. You feel the psychological impact of the scene even before you see any details of the crime. The pain of someone vulnerable, of a life cut short, becomes palpable. You realize this story isn't just about deaths, but about decisions, about human choices that become eternal scars for those who stay to watch. And yet, Tobin moves silently, calculating every step, every action as you begin to grasp the layers of what he's been plotting behind the scenes, a strategy of manipulation, a game of power and control that only a few can fully see. The church, the space of prayer, transforms before you. Every pew, every altar, every colored window that once represented hope now becomes part of a foreboding landscape. You sense something buried, something no one could have imagined, hidden beneath the floor, beneath the silence, waiting to be discovered. The tension comes not only from the fear of what Tobin has done, but from the knowledge that he has managed to keep this truth hidden, this layer of horror that extends beyond the physical space and penetrates your own perception of safety and morality. And it's in that instant that you realize, the cold light doesn't just illuminate, it exposes, and the shadows don't just hide, they provoke. Every detail you observe, every pause in the silence, every ancient smell of wood becomes part of a fragmented narrative, an invitation to understand the complexity of human evil, to reflect on choices, transformations, and impacts you may never fully forget. You sense Tobin's next move approaching, even without seeing him. It's present in the atmosphere, in the heavy air, in anticipation of something yet to be revealed. And you realize, with the uneasiness that courses through you, that no one could have ever imagined what was truly hidden beneath the floor of that church. The door remains ajar. You feel the risk, the tension, the cold light reflecting off the boards, and you know, even if subconsciously, that the hidden truth is about to emerge in a way that will change your perception forever. Have you ever felt a chill creep up your spine without knowing exactly where it's coming from? As if something hidden, almost imperceptible, was watching your every step, your every thought, even when you try to distract yourself. Here, within these walls, there are layers of pain no one has dared to touch. Have you noticed it? That emptiness that seems to breathe with you, that silence that won't let you forget. And now, I want you to do something. I want you to put into words what you feel. One sentence, one single word. It could be injustice, fear, unbelievable, anything that's pulsing inside you as you hear about what happened beneath the floor of this church. Write in the comments. Not out of idle curiosity, but so you can acknowledge your own unease, so you can see that you're not alone in this feeling. Think about it. Every word you write becomes an invisible thread connecting you to those who have suffered, to those who have been deceived, to those who have trusted too much and lost. It's a silent gesture, almost a ritual, as if you were placing a candle in the darkness, illuminating the truth Tobin tried to hide. Do you feel this connection? Between you, between me, between all the memories that breathe here. And as you write, think about the unanswerable questions. Would you have noticed? Would you have trusted? Did you see the red line before it became destruction? Each comment is more than a word. It's a confession, an outburst, an acknowledgement of what it is human to feel in the face of the incomprehensible. So, tell me, what's the word that best describes what you're feeling right now? And then, observe the reactions of others, the way this collective energy builds an invisible bridge between all who dare to gaze into the abyss without looking away. You understand the weight of this, don't you? Each sentence is a small flame that keeps alive the memory of those who no longer have a voice. And as you type, know that this participation is essential. Not just for the channel but for yourself. It's a hidden act of belonging, a way to process pain, to reflect on human limits, on trust and betrayal. It's an intimate yet shared, silent gesture that creates a safe space for you and for everyone who feels the same restlessness. Now look at that half-open door, feel the cold light reflecting off the worn boards. Notice the invisible scratch still moving beneath the floor. As you consider the word you're about to write, realize, it's not just about Tobin. It's about you, about what you carry and how you react to the horror we don't want to understand but can't ignore. Type your word. And see how even silence becomes a participant. Because each comment is a thread connecting you to the mystery, the pain, the hidden truth that is yet to come. And as you write, take a deep breath. What is to come has not yet been revealed, and you are already a part of it. You feel the silence tighten, almost suffocating as you imagine Angelica walking through the sacristy, her soft laughter still echoing among the pews, each step marking a territory no one should cross. You notice the cold light from the window hitting the floor, reflecting off the polished marble, and for a moment, everything seems safe. But then you notice the door ajar. That door that always feels like an invitation, a promise of revelation. It's a red streak pulsing in the air, and you know instinctively that something is about to change. And it changed. Angelica disappears. A moment of normalcy, then emptiness. The echo of her last smile still lingers, and Tobin appears on the scene, silent, almost invisible. He carries the routine of an ordinary worker, but you sense that behind the mask lies a mindset no one can fathom. His every decision, every movement, carries an impact, a silent transformation that no one notices until it's too late. Have you ever felt this? The feeling that something that seems safe hides a hidden truth, something that shouldn't exist, something you only realize when you're already in the abyss. As the backstory slowly unfolds, you begin to notice clues, tiny cracks in reality. An object out of place, a shadow moving erratically, the sensation of space contracting around you. And you're there, observing, experiencing each sensation intensely as if your own heart were at risk. It's in that moment that you realize the power of narrative, The way the story infiltrates, transforms your perception, forces you to question everything. Stay with me until the end. This isn't just an empty request. It's an invitation to walk through the darkness with me, to feel every step Tobin took, every choice that shaped Angelica's destiny, every secret buried beneath the floor of this church. Because if you stay, I will show you the details no one dared to record, the revelations that transform fear into understanding, pain into reflection, suspicion into impact. You will be rewarded with what few have had the courage to face, the hidden truth that forever alters the way you see reality. And even now, as you take a deep breath, you realize the story isn't linear. Fragments intertwine, memories and conjectures blur. You sense the confusion Tobin instilled in everyone he crossed paths with. Every decision, every gesture, every silence carries layers of intention and consequence, and you're there, almost complicit, absorbing the transformation he unleashed. A scent of fear permeates the air, and you feel the red line on your skin, the tension building, the certainty that normalcy is just a facade slowly crumbling. As you absorb every detail, every shadow, every pulse on the church floor, your mind begins to form impossible questions. How could someone so ordinary harbor such evil? How far is the line between routine and horror? And you realize it's not just Tobin, it's not just Angelica. It's you, it's your own curiosity, your need to understand the incomprehensible, to touch the truth that burns at the edges of the permitted. The half-open door remains before you, inviting you to pass through. And you do, slowly, feeling the cold intensify, noticing details that previously went unnoticed. Every fragment Tobin left behind, every shadow, every echo of Angelica's disappearance, builds a spiral you can't ignore. You perceive the impact, the depth, the transformation all of this provokes in your mind and perception. And as the silence weighs heavy, and you feel the risk of every decision made that night, you understand, there is more to reveal. Stay with me until the end, because the truth won't be revealed all at once. Each layer that peels back is an opportunity to reflect, to feel, to delve even deeper into the disturbing psychology of a man who changed the course of a life. And as you prepare for this immersion, you already perceive the outline of the next revelation, the one that will make it impossible to ignore anyone unaware, the one that will transform your perception of what you thought you knew about security, trust, and evil. Angelica's disappearance isn't just a fact. It's a portal to who Tobin really was. And you're about to step through it. You feel the chill run down your spine again, as if every shadow in St. Patrick's Church whispers secrets no one should hear. The floor, once just polished wood beneath your feet, now becomes a threshold between illusory safety and concrete horror. And there it is, Angelica's body. A body that was life, movement, interrupted dreams, transformed into absolute silence, hidden beneath what seemed untouched. You realize that nothing will ever be the same. The cold light filters through the half-open door, reflecting on the floor, revealing details your mind tries to reject but cannot. Your every breath mingles with the scent of the past, the impact of a hidden truth that refuses to be ignored. The clinical examination reveals a meticulous, almost ritualistic assault, marked by cold, calculated decisions that leave traces of a disturbed mind. You slowly realize that it's not just the physical violence that frightens you, but the intimacy of the act. The way someone turned trust into a trap, a refuge into a prison. Every detail, every mark, every gesture hidden under the floorboards carries with it Tobin's mindset, his inner transformation, his choices that shaped the tragedy. And you feel, in every fiber of your body, the weight of this impact, the horror that infiltrates silently like an invisible virus. As the background to the investigation unfolds, you notice something even more disturbing: Tobin's normalcy before the crime. An ordinary, hard-working man, smiling at community events, yet capable of such extreme decisions that common sense of morality shatters before his eyes. You wonder if this duality, this social mask, isn't something we all carry, something that can turn into an abyss, depending on the choices, the opportunities, the darkness we allow to grow within us. And the silence weighs heavily. The echo of the disappearance still resonates in the corridors, between wooden benches, on walls that should never have witnessed such evil. You feel the psychological voyeurism, the tension born of forbidden knowledge, of intimacy with another's trauma. It's painful, disturbing, but irresistible. Your every thought becomes a reflection of the crime, your every breath a connection with the mind that masterminded it all, and you realize that this is the experience, being simultaneously a spectator and a confidant, understanding without accepting, feeling without being able to intervene. As the hidden truth unfolds, subtle clues emerge. The slightly shifted floorboards, marks that seemed imperceptible, the arrangement of objects that now reveal a silent narrative of control and obsession. Each revelation is both a shock and a profound immersion, forcing you to reflect on human limits, on the capacity for cruelty that exists when the social mask slips, when cold light penetrates corners that should remain shadowed only in the imagination. You realize that Angelica's story isn't just about a found body, but about the tension between trust and threat, between life and death, between what we see and what is hidden. With each layer revealed, with each clinical and emotional detail, you feel the red line pulsing. If he was able to hide a life under a floorboard, what other secret places could he be harboring his own evil? Your every thought fragments, moments blur with suspicion and curiosity, and you begin to question everything you believed about safety, morality, and what it means to truly know someone. And as you observe every trace, every shadow that seems to move with its own intention, you realize that truth is not just a fact, but a silent transformation. It alters your perception, shapes your mind, forces you to confront the discomfort of knowing that life can be as fragile as the trust we give it. And yet, you continue to observe, to feel, to imagine every decision, every choice, every act that led to this tragedy. The concrete horror isn't just the body, but the awareness that Tobin operated with almost clinical precision, a predator's mentality camouflaged by normality. And as you absorb every detail, you feel the victim's pain, the restlessness of the human mind, the inevitability of confronting limits you never imagined crossing. The echo of Angelica's disappearance and the revelation of what was hidden beneath the church become a mirror. You look and, involuntarily, wonder what you would do, how you would react, how far you would go if you were on the other side of that half-open door. And so, you remain on the edge of reality and interpretation, feeling each fragment of the narrative penetrate, disturb, transform. The red line still pulses, the cold light still reveals details that seem to move with a life of their own, and you realize that if Tobin was capable of this, if evil could hide so perfectly beneath the floor of a place of faith, the spiral of discovery has only just begun. Every sound, every shadow, every memory of Angelica's interrupted life intertwines, creating a suspense that never dissipates, and you realize that the journey is far from over, even as the concrete horror looms large, heavy, inescapable, inevitable. You feel the cold dawn wind sweep through the silent streets as Tobin dissolves into the city like a shadow, changing names, taking on faces that aren't his. His every step is calculated, every decision a silent dance between life and justice. You realize he's not just a man on the run. He's a predator in constant transformation, a specter that infiltrates spaces of normality, hospitals, corridors where routine should offer safety, but which now become red-hot territories. As he hides, you begin to notice the behind-the-scenes nature of the spreading fear. The police, desperate, race against time, spreading photos, appealing to the media, trying to track down a man who always seems one step ahead. You feel the tension, the psychological impact that infiltrates homes, people's thoughts, the silent panic that accompanies the idea that evil can be so close, so invisible. Tobin's mindset asserts itself even from a distance, observant, patient, calculating. And you involuntarily begin to wonder if some reflection of yourself might be hiding behind choices, decisions, and secrets no one has ever known. Every news story, every appeal, every glimpse of their image in the newspapers is a fragment of suspense that penetrates your mind. And you notice how pain mixes with curiosity, how the need to understand the human mind merges with the fascination with the forbidden. The entire city becomes a stage of surveillance and suspicion, and you walk along, a silent confidant, feeling the weight of uncertainty and the racing heart of someone who realizes that nothing is as it seems. But the story isn't limited to the chase. Unexpected connections emerge, fragments no one noticed before. People who crossed paths, details that were overlooked, small signs in the police files that now shine under a cold light. You begin to realize that the case, which seemed closed, hides even more hidden truths. Each partial revelation transforms your perception, forcing a profound reflection on justice, mortality, and the chasm that exists between normality and monstrosity. And Tobin, the man you thought you knew, becomes even more complex as the behind-the-scenes of his life unfolds. He's not just the hunter or the fugitive, but someone who manipulates the narrative itself, hiding his presence in unexpected places, exploiting every opportunity to remain invisible. You feel the psychological voyeurism, the tension of witnessing without being able to intervene, of understanding without accepting, of imagining his every step with a mixture of fear and fascination that never dissipates. As the police intensify their manhunt, you realize that every decision made, every strategy implemented, carries with it the weight of unimaginable consequences. Tobin's mind is a labyrinth of transformation, dark thinking, and deliberate choices, and you find yourself traversing every corridor of his thoughts, every room he occupies in shadow. The hidden truth manifests itself in fragments, demanding attention, patience, and perception. Each fragment of information brings a direct impact, a shiver that runs down your spine, a sense that something even greater is about to reveal itself. The interplay between pursuer and pursued unfolds with almost theatrical precision. You follow every move, feel the rhythm of the hunt, the rhythm of the mind calculating risks, the tension that extends not only over the police but over every person who might inadvertently cross paths with Tobin. The suspense fragments into silent revelations as false and real clues blend, creating a fog where reality and interpretation blur, and you wonder with an unquenchable unease, what else is hidden, whose lives are in danger, what decisions still lie ahead. And even as you absorb every detail, feel every impact, you realize the story is multiplied in layers. Every clue, every hospital, every unknown face that could be him, every scattered photograph, creates a web of uncertainty and tension. Evil isn't confined to a single space, it moves, adapts, infiltrates. You feel the urgency, the pain, the silent responsibility to bear witness, the need to understand the inner workings of a mind that seems to know no bounds, and you begin to intuit that, if new connections emerged, the case was never simple. And then, as you breathe deeply, the city still asleep around you, you realize that every detail, every movement Tobin makes, every fragment of revelation, is not just a story of escape or pursuit. It's a journey through the impact of evil, the transformation of ordinary lives into scenes of horror, the complexity of human decisions, and the hidden truth that lurks beneath the surface of everyday life. And you remain there, silent, attentive, aware that the hunter and the hunted are just part of something much larger, a spiral that still unfolds, waiting for you to follow attentively fragment by fragment, through the dark corridor that opens before you. You feel the city's pulse slowing, the silence that seems heavier than any sound. As the police sift through old files, the psychological impact of what Tobin did begins to loom like a shadow over each investigation. You realize it wasn't just Angelica. Victims like Vicky Hamilton and Dinah McNichol emerge from dusty files, names now taking shape, faces, stories intertwining with the life of someone who always seemed so ordinary. The transformation of safe space into a territory of horror isn't just physical, it's mental, social, and emotional. Each discovery reverberates in the minds of families, in the city's mindset, in its very understanding of what it means to trust. The gardens that were once places of play and laughter become scenes of silent excavations. The disturbed earth holds long-buried secrets, bodies that emerge only to reaffirm that hidden truth always finds a way to manifest itself. You can almost touch the feel of the damp grass beneath your fingers, smell the cool scent of the freshly turned earth, and sense how each layer peeled back reveals more than just bones. It reveals old decisions, the impact of each choice, the red streak that has seeped into routine. You understand on some level that Tobin manipulated time, memories, leaving subtle traces that only patience and perception could reveal. And you realize that the pain isn't just the victims. It seeps into those who observe, those who investigate, those who dare to bear witness. There's an irresistible, almost addictive psychological voyeurism as you try to reconstruct the sequence of events, trying to decipher the mind of someone who masters horror as if it were art. His mind, an architecture of shadows and strategies, leaves subtle traces, red herrings that confound even the most attentive. Each new discovery is a blow, brief, intense, followed by a slow immersion where you feel every connection, every hidden revelation, every decision that forever altered lives. But there's no predictable ending. Each body found doesn't close the story, it only adds layers to the spiral of fear and mystery. You wonder, if 2 victims were discovered, how many still remain unseen? The question isn't rhetorical. It's a breach in your mind, an invitation to look deeper, to feel the invisible risk lurking beneath the surface of everyday life. And as the police search for answers, you become part of this process, a confidant of secrets that cannot yet be fully revealed. You realize that the past isn't just past, it breathes, moves, waits to be decoded. The behind-the-scenes investigation reveals more than just physical evidence. It exposes the transformation of public opinion, the collective psychological impact, the latent fear that permeates conversations, newspapers, and TV shows. Every detail of Tobin's actions, every body discovered, every excavation, carries with it decisions and consequences that go beyond immediate comprehension. You feel the pent-up tension, the silent urgency to understand, to connect the fragments, but also the impotence in the face of the magnitude of what has been hidden for so long. And as you delve deeper, you begin to perceive the subtleties of Tobin's mind. It's not just violence, it's manipulation, planning, exploiting fear, using everyday spaces as hiding places for evil. Every act, every choice, every decision he makes isn't just about control, it's about creating an invisible narrative that shapes the world around him. You feel the immediacy of this mindset, almost as if you were inside the cell of his own mind, absorbing every nuance, every shadow, every red line. The effect is visceral. You don't just read about these discoveries, you feel them. The cold light of the exhumed bodies, the heavy silence of the excavations, the metallic smell of the earth mixed with the memory of horror, all infiltrate your consciousness, heightening empathy and fear, curiosity and reflection. The hidden truth is not ready to be fully unveiled, but each fragment raises questions that don't require easy answers. You become a silent accomplice, a confidant of horrors that cannot be fully understood, and yet you yearn to know more, to feel more, to connect each dot of the slowly unfolding narrative. And you realize that each layer removed, each victim revealed, not only alters the past, it transforms your perception of the present. You find yourself pondering decisions, mindsets, the impact of evil when it infiltrates silently, almost invisibly, into spaces that should be safe. Psychological voyeurism mingles with empathy, and you involuntarily wonder, how many lives are still trapped in a story no one dared to tell? As the excavations continue, what Tobin left behind reveals itself in fragments. Files, names, connections, hidden truths intertwined with stories of people who never imagined becoming part of something so disturbing. You feel the pace of the investigation, the tension that lingers in silence, and realize that the horror lies not only in what has been done, but also in what could yet be discovered. Every step the investigators take is accompanied by a shadow of doubt, an invisible risk, a promise of revelations that defy immediate comprehension. And on this threshold between the uncovered past and the still hidden future, you begin to sense that the true abyss lies not in what has been discovered, but in what remains hidden. You feel each connection slowly emerge, each thread connecting victims, decisions, risks, and secrets. The hidden truth manifests itself in fragments, like a puzzle you're piecing together in real time, each piece more disturbing than the last. And as you absorb this, you realize that the story of Tobin, Angelica, and the other victims is just one layer of an even larger narrative, where each revelation opens doors to new questions, new concerns, new fragments of horror waiting to be unearthed. The city still breathes, the newspapers still publish, but you know silently that the hunt isn't over. Every excavation, every discovery, every connection is a reminder that the abyss never closes, that the transformation of lives and minds continues to be shaped by invisible decisions, by the impact of calculated evil, by the behind-the-scenes story that seems to have no end. And you remain there, attentive, a silent accomplice, feeling every fragment of hidden truth, every red line, every cold light that infiltrates the everyday, knowing that what has been discovered is only the beginning of something much greater. Do you feel it? The silence that descends after each name emerges, each body is discovered. It's a weight you carry with me, almost as if you were in those excavations, feeling the damp earth slip through your fingers, realizing each decision that changed lives forever. And here, between each fragment of truth, is where you become part of the story. You observe, feel, question, and understand that this isn't over yet. If you want to continue peering through these half-open doors, if you want to understand how far the human mind can go, if you want to feel the impact of the revelations yet to come, you need to be with me. Not just out of curiosity, but to be present at every step of this investigation, in every shadow that moves silently beneath the soil of cities, homes, and lives no one imagined touching. By subscribing, you truly connect. You ensure that no hidden truth escapes, that no corner of fear in the human mind is lost. Here, each click is not just a gesture, it's a silent pact between those who seek to understand the incomprehensible and those who dare to reveal what has been hidden for decades. It's a promise to continue uncovering, to continue exposing what should remain invisible, and to feel every transformation, every risk, every impact as if you were there. So, if you feel the chill running down your spine now, if you feel curiosity pulsing through you, if you want to continue descending these layers, make your choice. Press the button. Subscribe. Because without you, this story loses part of its echo, loses part of your testimony. And there is still so much to be revealed, so much that has yet to be breathed, so much that is waiting for someone like you to understand, to feel, to discover. Now take a deep breath. Feel the weight of what we've already seen, but know that there are even darker doors, even colder corridors, and even more hidden truths waiting to be explored. Are you ready to walk through them with me? Do you feel the weight of this never-ending countdown? Each number is a face, a life, a story interrupted in the midst of its own transformation. Some disappear and collective memory simply bows to oblivion. Others leave traces that reveal only fragments of a hidden truth, and it is in this space between what we know and what we will never know that you find yourself now, observing, trying to understand, trying to feel the impact without having directly touched the pain. Tobin is gone. 2022. A sigh on the calendar, a full stop for many who sought justice. But here you realize something different. The secrets don't disappear with him. They seep in, whispering through every mental reconstruction, through every decision you think is safe, every choice you believe is banal. There are bodies no one will see, stories that will never be told, silences that still scream in the coldest corners of any city. You think you understand that the timeline is finally closing, but the truth, always fragmented, folds in on itself and reveals only more questions. How many more? You find yourself repeating this question and realize there's no comfortable answer. How many were never counted? How many remained invisible, buried in the routine of places we thought were safe, of people we thought were trustworthy? Tobin's mind, even in death, still casts shadows over these lives. You feel the friction of morality, the tension of failed justice, the collective guilt that insists on not letting you look away. Every behind-the-scenes detail, every damned decision, every psychological trace he left becomes a kind of mirror. You look into it and realize, perhaps painfully, that understanding evil requires confronting your own vulnerability. And there's something even more disturbing. His death itself doesn't end the cycle. He died taking the secrets with him, but the echoes of those actions continue to vibrate. Some accounts, some hidden confessions, old records, fragments of memories from victims who survived or who never spoke. All of this becomes a web of revelations that you traverse with me. Each layer of information that emerges is an impact. Each decision you imagine he made is a transformation from fear to understanding, but also to regret. You feel the effect of this story reverberate within you, and the tension grows because you know there's always something more to discover. Have you ever wondered how many human decisions are driven by the red line, by malignant curiosity, by the combination of opportunity and will? Tobin knew every half-open door, every cold light, every moment of fragility in someone who trusted too much. He used them as if they were instruments finely tuned. And in that moment, you perceive the psychological complexity, the mindset of a man who transformed his reality, transformed people into numbers and silent fears. It's impossible to separate empathy for humanity from revulsion at crime. You feel both, blended as if they were the same texture on your skin. Behind the scenes of every investigation, there are reports that speak of clinical coldness, of repeating patterns, of camouflage strategies that almost defy comprehension. But here with me you understand something that the cold numbers don't reveal. The pain, the loss, the uncertainty, the constant feeling of psychological voyeurism. Each body discovered is a shock. Each detail that emerges is an opportunity to reflect on choices, on what you would or wouldn't do, on the limits of morality and justice. The hidden truth isn't just about him. It's about us, about how we feel, about how we deal with what we can't change. And as you digest this, as you feel the chill of realizing so many lives were silently lost, you're faced with the question that echoes louder than any investigation. How many still remain invisible even after we think everything has been told? Every unresolved suspicion, every story that doesn't make it to the media, every victim whose face is unrecognizable. All of this weighs heavily and creates a tension that doesn't dissipate. It's an invitation to deep reflection, to the feeling that evil, when systematic, is never completely contained. You feel the pulse of history still pulsing, even after the protagonist has died. It's as if the cold prison walls, the hidden floors of churches, the silent excavated gardens, all these places, still carry fragments of their presence. Each trace becomes a fragment of ourselves reflected in horror. You wonder if justice can ever achieve the impossible, if the complete truth can ever be reached, or if everything will always be only partially revealed, leaving you and everyone watching, with a chill of uncertainty running down your spine. And then, between this invisible risk and the coldness of reality, you realize something you might never want to admit, that following this story changes your perception. That every decision, every choice you make in your daily life, every half-open door you observe, every moment you feel a cold light touch your thoughts, is a reflection of the psychological impact Tobin left. A legacy of evil that transcends physical death and remains alive in every mind that dares to look at it carefully. You realize that the count, the disappearances, the bodies, the investigations, all of this isn't just a historical record. It's a lens through which you examine your own fear, your own judgment, your own humanity. It's proof that the hidden truth is never fully revealed, that there are always decisions left unmade, destinies not understood, horrors that linger in the background, waiting for someone to get close enough to feel their weight. And now, as this tension builds, as you realize the silent impact of this story on your own perception, you understand that the human mind is as terrifying as any crime. That the transformation from fear to understanding is a never-ending journey. That Tobin's legacy lies not only in the bodies he took or the stories he interrupted, but in the restlessness you now carry. And it is at this point, in this suspended instant, that you feel the narrative's breath drag toward the next shadow, toward the next revelation still waiting to be unearthed. You realize that nothing has been fully told. And silently, between curiosity and regret, you prepare for what's yet to come, knowing that each next step will be as impactful, as visceral, as deeply human as everything you've experienced thus far. Do you feel that shadow? It doesn't dissolve with his death. Tobin died in 2022, but the weight of what he did still pulsates in the quietest places, in the dark corridors of collective memory, in the gardens that hold buried secrets. Every face you remember, every name that echoes in your mind, is proof that evil doesn't simply end. It infiltrates, reproduces itself in the curiosity you feel, in the tension that sets in when you realize that no matter how much we search for answers, some remain only as echoes. It's hard to accept that we'll never know how many truly disappeared. Lives erased without a trace, human decisions interrupted, moments of joy, of fear, of dreams that ended before they even began. And you, now watching this with me, feel the same uneasiness I feel as I try to piece together this narrative. Because each fragment that emerges is more than a detail, it's an impact. And this impact doesn't leave us indifferent. You realize that this isn't just history, it's not just crime. It's a reflection on how evil can hide behind the scenes of normality, in everyday routine, in the half-open doors that no one dares to cross. You see the red line in every decision he made, in every moment he chose to act instead of hesitate. And even if you've never seen Tobin, even if you've never met a victim directly, the feeling of psychological voyeurism touches you, envelopes you, forces you to confront your own humanity. It's impossible not to wonder, if he was capable of this, how far would you go in extreme circumstances? It's not a question about crime. It's a question about limits, about mindset, about life-defining choices. And as you feel this tension build, as you delve into each layer of revelation, you realize the narrative isn't over yet. Because evil leaves traces. It always does. And the traces are in the untold stories, in the bodies that remain invisible, in the silences that scream behind the scenes. The transformation Tobin wrought wasn't just in the victims. It was in the way the world looks at the unknown, how we look at it. Every detail that now emerges, every twist that emerges, is a piece of this puzzle that never completely closes. You feel the impact of his decisions reflecting on your own perception of the world. The hidden truth isn't just his. It's collective. And that's precisely why we keep searching, fragment by fragment, revelation by revelation, trying to understand the full extent of what happened. You realize there's something more that hasn't been said, something hidden between the lines, in the shadows, in the cold light that touches the church floor, in the whispers that escape the walls. You draw closer, and for a moment, you almost feel his breath, the same calculated silence he cultivated as he transformed banal decisions into irreversible destinies. And then, suddenly, you understand that every story we reconstruct, every investigation we relive, is also a way of resisting oblivion. That every video, every narrative, every detail we share is a small battle against erasure. It's an attempt to transform fear into knowledge, tension into understanding, uncertainty into vigilance. It's the feeling that you're part of something bigger, that your presence here isn't merely passive. You observe, feel, question, silently participate in this search for truths that insist on remaining hidden. Tobin's shadow lingers, hovering between what has been revealed and what we will never know. And it is this shadow that forces us to reflect on mortality, on justice, on human limits, on the choices that shape destinies. Each account, each fragment of memory we manage to reconstruct, is a bridge to the incomprehensible, a thread of cold light that pierces the safe fear, that keeps us connected to the narrative. You feel this connection not only to the story but to all who try to understand, who try to expose the hidden truth, who try to confront the controversy that always arises when reality defies logic. Now, as you absorb this tension, this empathy, this silent shiver, I want to invite you to be part of the sequel. To explore with me the next behind the scenes, the decisions yet to be revealed, the revelations that still lurk between what we know and what we only suspect. Every comment you make, every thought you share strengthens this search. It's as if we're together, walking through dark corridors, feeling the red line, touching the cold light that escapes through the cracks, trying to piece together a map of a mind that tried to hide from everything, and yet left traces. If you want to continue this journey, if you feel the same need to understand, to feel, to connect with the fragments that remain invisible, every gesture counts. Every word typed in the comments is an extension of your presence in this space, a way of participating in the reconstruction of history. It's not just about following along. It's about collaborating with the vigilance over what we must never forget, of making the invisible visible. Because in the end, the narrative never ends. It just waits for someone to continue, attentive, curious, ready to face the shadows and discover, along with me, the next fragments of a truth that insists on remaining hidden. You've made it this far. History still breathes around you, even after each revelation, each heavy silence, each half-open door that will never be completely closed. And it is in this space, between what we've seen and what we don't yet know, that the search continues. If something about this narrative touched you, if you sensed the tension, the injustice, the hidden truth that haunts you, then it makes sense to stick around. Mark your presence here in the comments with, "I'm with you until the end." Let these words become a record of your connection to the story, your place among those trying to understand the incomprehensible. What you feel now isn't just fear. It's belonging. It's indignation at human choices that transformed lives. It's curiosity about what remains invisible, buried, forgotten, but never truly gone. And if you want to continue this search with me, if you want to keep feeling, discovering, reflecting, there's a next step waiting. Give me a like, not just because it's a gesture, but because it's a sign that you participated, that you cared about every fragment revealed, every shadow we tried to cross together. And while you feel the weight of what Tobin left behind, there's a video right here that complements this topic, revealing even more details that perhaps no one has told. Click stay with me there and we'll reconstruct more pieces of this hidden truth, together, layer by layer, unhurriedly, unfiltered, just us and the story that insists on not being silent. Because in the end, the story never ends. It just waits for those who dare to move forward. And you're here. And that makes all the difference.